kittens, this is Sugar for House of Cyanide, and this video is Psychic School episode number 5, all about possession, the good and the bad. And I want to make a note that my newbie has decided to join me. He's chilling in my lap, which I think is really interesting, especially concerning the topic at hand. So, possession, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. There's good possession. Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was such thing as a good possession. Technically, yes. A good possession is done by those who are mediums, channels. It's really common in the African Yoruba traditions where you allow another spirit or entity to kind of take over the controls of your body. This is considered a good possession. This also happens in Wicca when you do a genuine drawing down the moon ceremony and the high priestess of that ceremony allows her to be possessed by the goddess so that she can give each of the people participating in that ceremony a special message or something along those lines. And so these are examples of good possession. We're all familiar with bad possession. We're all familiar with ugly possession, i.e. the exorcist. Okay, that would be what I would consider the ugly. So what is possession? And how can there be good possession and bad possession and all of that? I'm going to use another analogy because for me it's just always the easiest way to explain things. So I look at possession as if your body and mind is like a car. And you are always in the driver's seat of the car, okay? If you are in your body and it's you in your body, you are in the driver's seat of your car. With a good possession, possession, however, my lips, mouth, not talking. Anyways, with a good possession, you are no longer in the driver's seat, but you're in the passenger seat. So while you're not necessarily doing the driving, you are aware of everything that is going on. You know whether or not you're going right or left. You can, you're familiar, like if you're going somewhere, you can watch where they're going and what direction they're going into. And you're pretty much actively aware of everything that is going on. And if need be, you can reach over, grab the steering wheel, and slam your foot on the brake and forcibly take back over. It's a little bit easier to kind of do that if you're in the passenger seat. Versus when some people do possession, and this isn't necessarily bad possession, it's just another way that it occurs, and it really depends on the person and what they allow. Because no matter what happens when it comes to possession, it's being allowed by the person who's being possessed. Even if it's the ugly kind, the person is allowing it to happen. And I'll get into more of that later. So another form of possession would be if the best way to explain it is via analogy. It's as if you are sleeping in the back seat. So you're still in the car, so you know that the car is still moving, you know that the car is still going somewhere, but you're asleep in the back seat, so you're not paying attention to where it's going or how it's going. You just know that it's still moving, that it's still running. You're not really aware of anything that's going on around you, and you have no memory or recollection of anything that occurred while you were sleeping in the back seat. The worst type of possession is if you're not in the back seat, but you're locked in the trunk. Okay? Because if you're in the back seat, you still have the ability to kind of jump over to the front seat, grab the steering wheel, possibly get the brake, might cause an accident, but you still kind of have the ability to fight back and get free and reclaim the car that is your body. Okay? Versus if you're locked in the trunk, you're pretty much screwed until they let you out of the trunk, or someone else lets you out of the trunk, until you figure your way out of the trunk. Okay? So, what do I mean by allowing it to happen? Even in, like, say, The Exorcist, when you have a full-on, nasty, ugly demon possession, the reason why they are so hard to help people is because the person who's being possessed is allowing it. And you cannot force, and they cannot force, no one can force you to do anything against your will. So if you're being possessed, it's because you are allowing it. Whether you realize it or not, that's another story. But if it's happening, it's because you are allowing it to happen. And the minute that you realize that you are allowing it to happen and you don't want it to happen anymore, boom, you're back in control and they've got no options. So, granted, they're really, really good, especially the nasty ones, are good at manipulating you into giving up control, into allowing them to take control, especially if you're in a place in your life where you don't want to be responsible or accountable for your actions. It would be really, really easy to let someone else just take over and run everything for you. That is when you're most susceptible to possession, because that's what they'll do. And then you might not like the outcome of that. So, back to the big, ugly, nasty demon possession and all of that. The reason why it is so hard to kick out that demon or whatever it is that's possessing is because the person is allowing it to happen. And basically what you have to do is you have to weaken that entity enough to allow the original person's personality to realize, oh, this is not what I want. Oh, this is not what I wanted. And then they have to take back over and take control again. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you are until that person makes that decision to fight for themselves. There's nothing you can do. Okay? It's the same thing with somebody who's a drug addict, an alcoholic, gambling addiction. Addiction is a demon. Now, whether or not addiction is physically, the full-on horns, hooves, the whole nine, I'm not going to go into that. I don't really, have never really gone there, never really thought about it. But the way that I look at somebody who is dealing with addiction, I deal with them as if they are possessed, because that is no longer the person who it originally was. Now you're dealing with the monster inside of them, and they've let that monster possess them and is in the driver's seat. And that is why you see people who suffer from addiction hurt family and loved ones and do things that normally they would never do, because that's not them in control anymore. The addiction is now in control. They are now possessed by the demon of addiction. Okay? And I'm using that more in a figurative sense. I have not explored into the darker realms to really figure out if that is literally actually a demon, or if that's just kind of a figurative Okay, I'm gonna allow someone else to kind of do that. Not interested in going there, but I'm using this as a figurative term, and it's the same thing when you're dealing with genuine possession, when you're dealing with addiction. That's no longer the person that it was originally, and the only time that they're gonna get better is when they want to. The only time that they're actually so at that point, it's no good to help them. You may as well just, because all you're doing by helping is enabling until they are ready until they've made that decision in their head, and they're ready to fight back for themselves. There's nothing you can do. And it's the same thing with possession. It's the same thing with addiction. Again, addiction is possession. It is a demon. I don't know specifically if it's literally a demon, but figuratively, it's a demon. And it's the same concept until the person inside their head decides what they want, and that is not it. There's nothing anybody outside can do. Okay, I think I've gone over that more than enough. So, things that can weaken the connection to your body that make possession easier. Okay, sleeplessness, going without sleep, going without eating, going without drinking, any kind of deprivation will happen. It'll make it loosens the bonds between your soul and the body. Shamans for thousands of years have been doing this for that very reason, but using drugs, again, alcohol, drugs, any of those things loosen the bond, the connection between you and your body. And shamans have been doing this for thousands of years, but they know what they're doing. So they do it in a controlled environment with people around them who know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and that can help them. So this is very extremely risky behavior, and it should not be you should not be trying to do this just to see something from the unseen, because it might work, and then the thing that you're seeing and dealing with is a horrible, evil thing, and you've weakened the bond between you and your body, and it just makes its job easier to attack you. Okay, and that is not something that you want to do. This can also happen while you're sleeping. That's why people have really bad nightmares. But there are things that you can do. Drugs, alcohol, all of that loosens your control. And because it loosens your control, hypnotism, again, because of that, it can weaken the link between you and your body and can make you more susceptible. Whether or not you want to be susceptible for good positive reasons, or whether you do not want to be susceptible for bad negative reasons. Okay, it simply is. It's not necessarily good or bad. It simply is. Doing it in an unhealthy, unintelligent, risky manner is bad. Okay, but doing it smartly, intelligently, knowing what you're doing is good. Okay, if you want to protect yourself, and this is the reason why I showed Newbie on camera, is dogs and cats and other animals, it's easier for them to see the unseen. They don't have to work quite so hard as we do to see it, and they can protect you. Negative entities are not going to try to attack you if there are animals around you, because the animals will protect you. Especially if you're bonded to the animal, most definitely. If you're bonded to the animal, it will protect you. So, which is why I think it's really interesting that that Anubis, his nickname is Newbie, is sitting here in my lap, because just talking about this subject kind of, just talking about it can invite unwanted attention. It's probably a good way to explain it. So, I think I might do another video on protecting yourself during possession and the things that you can do, because this is already kind of long. So, I will be back in a minute.